Have you ever felt proud that you chant, meditate, listen to countless teachings, yet when something goes wrong your temper explodes exactly like before? Have you ever gone through a period of very diligent practice, then suddenly wondered one night in bed, am I actually changing? Or am I just dressing up my old habits with spiritual clothes? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for giving yourself this time and space. Not just to listen to more ideas, but to quietly look at your own heart. Today we are going to talk about a topic that many practitioners secretly avoid facing. Are you really progressing? Or are you just imagining that you are? Are you walking? Or just running on a spiritual treadmill that keeps you in the same place? Slightly more tired and slightly more self-minus satisfied. The original teaching behind this script points to something very direct. It says that Buddhist practice, or any spiritual practice, is not measured by how many mantras you recite, how many talks you have listened to, or how many scriptures you can quote. It is measured by the transformation of your heart and your behavior in real minus life situations. There are certain key indicators, like quiet checkpoints on the road, that reveal whether you are actually moving forward or just circling in your own illusion. In this long, story minus base talk, we will explore 7 such indicators, not as rigid rules, not as a test to judge yourself harshly, but as mirrors to help you see where you really are. We will look at how you handle anger, criticism, gain and loss, desire, relationships, daily frustrations, and your own wandering mind. We will see how awakening, wisdom, karma, practice, and destiny are not abstract words but forces that show up in the way you answer the phone, the way you speak when you are tired, the way you deal with disappointment. This is not about perfection. It is about honesty. Let us begin with the first quiet test. Imagine you have just come out of a weekend retreat. For 2 days, you sat in silence, followed your breath, listened to teachings about compassion and emptiness. You left the retreat center feeling light and pure, telling yourself, from now on, I will be calm, I will be kind, I will not lose my temper so easily. On Monday morning, you wake early, chant a little, drink your tea slowly, and feel almost like a peaceful sage. Then you walk out into the world. At work, your colleague makes a mistake that affects your project. They send the wrong file to a client. The client sends back a sharp email, copying your boss. Your boss calls you into the office and says sternly, "How could you let this happen? You need to be more careful." In that instant, your chest tightens. A hot wave rises from your stomach to your throat. Thoughts race, it was not my fault. Why am I being blamed? This is so unfair. Now here is the first test. In that moment, does your practice show up? Or does your old reflex run the show? If you have not really digested your practice, you might snap defensively, blaming the colleague loudly, throwing them under the bus to protect your own faith. Or you might remain silent outside but spend the rest of the day internally cursing your boss, replaying the scene over and over, feeling more and more victimized. If your practice has gone a little deeper, something different happens. The first wave of anger still rises. Awakening does not mean you feel nothing. But right after that, another awareness appears. You notice your racing heart, your tightening jaw, the urge to attack or defend. It is as if an inner bell rings, reminding you, this is anger, this is pride, this is the old habit. You take one breath, then another. You listen to your boss's words without immediately adding your own drama on top. You speak more simply and honestly. You are right that the mistake should not have happened. The file was sent by my colleague, and I did not double minus check it. I will take responsibility for fixing this and making sure it does not repeat. Later, in private, you can talk calmly with your colleague about how to improve the process. You can still clarify responsibilities, but you do it without exploding, without poisoning the air with blame. The first indicator of real practice is not that you never get angry. It is that your anger takes longer to arise, passes more quickly, and causes less damage in the world because you are more awake inside it. So ask yourself, honestly compared to 3 years ago, is your temper exactly the same? Or has it softened even a little? Do you recover faster after being triggered? Or do you still hold grudges for days, weeks, months? If your answer is, honestly, I still explode or sulk the same way, that does not mean you are hopeless. It means you have been watering the seed of theory more than the seed of application. A lot of Dharma has entered your ears, but not yet your bone. The second indicator is how you react when people point out your mistakes. In the early stages of practice, we love praise and hate criticism. We can recite teachings about emptiness, but one sharp comment from a friend or partner can make us feel small and furious. Imagine you are in a discussion with a close friend. You are sharing your view on a topic you have studied deeply, perhaps about karma or sins or compassion. You quote teachers, you explain patiently. Then your friend says, I hear what you are saying, but I think you are missing something. Your attitude sometimes feels a bit superior, as if you know more than others. Your face burns. Your mind screams, what do you know about my practice? How dare you judge me? No. An untrained mind will either attack back, listing all the ways the friend is worse, or shut down, cutting off the friendship in silent resentment. A mind that is slowly ripened by practice will still feel the sting, but it will also notice the sting. It will not automatically believe that a criticism is an attack. Instead, it will treat it as a mirror. That does not mean you must accept every criticism as truth. People project their own shadows, but you begin to ask, is there at least 5% truth in what they said? Is there something here I can learn from? Maybe you realize that yes, you often subtly correct others, using teachings like a shield to feel more advanced. You may feel embarrassed, but instead of defending, you say, thank you for telling me. It is hard to hear, but I will reflect on it. The second indicator of real progress is an increasing ability to receive feedback without collapsing or attacking. You move from a fragile pride to a more grounded humility. The third indicator is your relationship with desire and pleasure. Before practice, it is normal to chase stimulation. You might binge-watch shows, drown in social media, scroll online shops for hours, always looking for the next small hit of excitement. When you begin to study the Dharma, you hear that craving leads to suffering. You nod. You agree. But your hands still reach for your phone the minute you feel bored or lonely. Real practice does not require you to live without any comfort, but it gradually changes the position of desire in your life. Imagine this scene. You come home after a stressful day. Your old habit is to collapse on the sofa and escape into a series for 5 hours, then wonder where the night went. After some years of practice, a different impulse appears. You still feel the pull of escape. Before turning on the screen, you pause. You might sit for 10 minutes in silence, feeling your breath, acknowledging the pain and fatigue in your body. You might chant a short prayer or recite a few lines that remind you of impermanence. Then you ask yourself, what do I really need right now? Numbing distraction or gentle nourishment? Sometimes you still choose a show, and that is okay. But other times, you choose to take a slow walk, or to call a friend and have a sincere conversation, or to read a few pages of wisdom that help you understand your mind. Over months and years, the balance changes. You are less enslaved by desire. Pleasure becomes something you enjoy without clinging, rather than something you must have to avoid feeling your inner emptiness. The third indicator is that your cravings command you less, and your conscious choices lead you more. The fourth indicator shows up in how you treat people when there is nothing to gain. Many people can be polite, generous, even respectful toward teachers, bosses, or people they admire. But their true state appears in how they treat service workers, children, and especially family members who see them every day. Imagine a practitioner who bows very beautifully in the temple, speaks gently to monks and nuns, donates money, and shares spiritual quotes online. At home, however, they snap at their spouse, speak harshly to their children, ignore their parents, and treat restaurant staff with impatience. In such a case, their practice is still mostly on the surface. It has not yet soaked into the places where the ego feels safe to drop its mask. Real progress is when your compassion begins to appear spontaneously, without calculation. In these hidden corners of your life, you notice yourself saying thank you to the cleaner at your office, looking them in the eyes instead of treating them as background. You notice yourself bending down to listen to a child's story instead of brushing them off. You notice yourself apologizing more quickly when you hurt your partner. This is not acting holy. It is simply that your heart is becoming softer, more aware of the equal worth of every being. The fourth indicator is that your kindness is less selective and less theatrical. It appears quietly, especially where no one is watching. The fifth indicator is your stability in the face of gain and loss. Before practice, most people ride an emotional roller coaster. When something good happens, like praise, promotion, or a romantic interest, they are ecstatic. They feel on top of the world. When something bad happens, like criticism, failure, or breakup, they fall into despair, feeling worthless. After some years of sincerely digesting teachings on impermanence and cause and effect, a subtle shift occurs. Good news still brings joy, but a quieter kind. You can celebrate without clinging. Part of you remembers, this will also pass. This success is a result of many conditions. I will enjoy it, but not build my entire identity on it. Bad news still hurts, but the pain feels less absolute. You remember times when things were difficult and then changed. You recall that this situation is also a collection of conditions, not a permanent sentence. You begin to inhabit a middle ground, not cold indifference, but a deeper calm that underlies both happiness and sadness. Imagine you invest time into a project that fails. In the past, you might say, "This is proof that I am useless. Nothing ever works out for me. The universe is against me." Now, you feel disappointed, but you also ask, what conditions were missing? What can I learn? How can I adjust my actions next time? Your mind moves from self-pity to investigation. That is wisdom starting to function. The fifth indicator is that you are less easily thrown off balance by outer ups and downs. Your mode is not entirely controlled by events. The sixth indicator is your honesty about your own inner world. Spiritual practice can become a sophisticated way of lying to yourself. You might tell yourself, "I have forgiven that person," while your body still tightens at the mention of their name. You might say, "I am not attached to money," while secretly obsessing over every small loss. You might say, "I am very compassionate," while carrying silent resentment toward those closest to you. Real progress begins when you dare to see what is actually happening inside, without immediately explaining it away. One day, during meditation, you notice that instead of watching your breath, your mind is busy replaying arguments, fantasizing about revenge, or daydreaming about recognition. Before, you might have scolded yourself, "I am such a bad practitioner. I cannot even focus for 5 minutes." Then, to avoid that unpleasant feeling, you quickly distract yourself with another teaching or activity. Now, you choose a different response. You gently label what you see here as anger. Here is craving. Here is pride. Here is fear. You do not justify it, but you also do not panic. You understand that seeing your own defilements clearly is not a failure. It is progress, because only what is seen can be transformed. The sixth indicator is that your self-minus awareness becomes more honest and less defensive. You stop using spiritual language to hide from your own shadows. The seventh indicator is your relationship with your wandering mind during practice itself. Many practitioners feel discouraged when they discover how noisy their own minds are. Use it to chant or meditate, and almost immediately your thoughts run to dinner plans, past conversations, future worries, before real understanding. You might react with shame. What is the point of this? My mind is hopeless. I should just give up. From a deeper perspective, however, the fact that you catch your mind wandering is already a sign of increased midlessons. Before, your mind wandered all the time and you did not even notice. Now, you notice. Imagine you are reciting a mantra. After a few lines, you suddenly realize you have been thinking about a recent conflict. Instead of getting angry at yourself, you simply acknowledge, "Oh, the mind ran away." Then you gently bring it back to the sound of the mantra. It will run away again. You will notice again. You will return again. Each cycle is like lifting a small weight at the mental gym. With each lift, your attention becomes stronger. The seventh indicator of real progress is not that you never have wandering thoughts, but that you relate to them with more patience and skill. You become less judgmental and more consistent, which allows your practice to sink deeper over time. Now, having walked through these 7 mirrors, how do you feel? Maybe you notice that in some areas, you have actually grown. Your temper, while not perfect, is softer than it used to be. You are a little slower to defend yourself. You are more able to laugh at your own ego. If so, take a moment to genuinely acknowledge that. Many practitioners only see their failures and never recognize their progress, which leads to discouragement. Gratitude for the fruits of practice is itself a form of energy that keeps you going. Maybe you also notice areas where you are still very stuck. Perhaps you still cannot accept criticism. Perhaps your kindness is still selective. Perhaps you still live under the reign of craving or worry. If so, do not use this realization to beat yourself up. Use it as guidance. Now you know more clearly where to focus your efforts. Remember, the point of these indicators is not to create a new ego identity of good practitioner or bad practitioner. The point is to help you check whether your practice is touching the real roots of suffering in your life. From the perspective of karma and destiny, these interchanges matter far more than how many times you prostrate or how impressive your ritual schedule looks from the outside. Every time you choose to breathe instead of explode, you soften karmic seeds of anger. Every time you accept a piece of feedback instead of defending, you weaken karmic seeds of pride. Every time you give up one act of pointless indulgence and choose a more wholesome activity, you loosen the chains of craving. Every time you are kind to someone who cannot benefit you, you plant seeds of genuine compassion. Every time you remain steady in the face of gain and loss, you nourish seeds of wisdom. Every time you face your own defilements honestly instead of hiding behind spiritual words, you water seeds of awakening. Every time you gently return your wandering mind to the present, you strengthen the muscle of midfulsons. Add these up over years, and your destiny cannot help but change, because you are literally becoming a different kind of person from the inside out. So where do you go from here? First, let go of the idea that progress must be dramatic. Most real transformation is quiet. It happens in countless small choices, not in one moment of fireworks. Second, choose one indicator that resonated with you most strongly and focus on it for a period of time. If anger is your main struggle, make a commitment for the next 3 months. I will pay special attention to the moments before my temper explodes. I will try to pause, breathe, and respond differently at least once each day. If receiving criticism is your challenge, you might commit for the next 3 months. Whenever someone gives me feedback, I will resist the urge to justify myself immediately. I will listen fully and reflect later. If craving rules your evenings, you might decide for the next 3 months. Before any entertainment, I will give 10 minutes to silent sitting or chanting. Only then will I choose what to do next. Third, remember to bring compassion into your practice. You are working with habits that may have formed over decades, or even many lifetimes. If you accept that view, it is natural that they do not dissolve overnight. When you fail, when you shout again, when you cling again, when you numb out again, notice it, admit it, and begin again. Compassion for yourself is not indulgence. It is recognizing that harsh self-judgment often blocks growth. While honest, warm awareness allows growth to resume. Finally, stay connected to the deeper motivation behind all of this. You are not practicing just to feel personally improved. You are practicing so that your presence in the world adds less confusion and more clarity, less harm and more healing. When you become less angry, the people around you suffer less. When you become more stable, your family feels safer. When you become more honest, your relationships become more real. When you become more content, you consume less and share more. In this way, your spiritual progress is not only about your destiny, it is about the destiny of everyone whose life touches yours. If you have listened all the way to this point, I want to thank you. It means there is a sincere practitioner inside you. Someone who is willing to look in the mirror, even when the reflection is uncomfortable. That sincerity itself is one of the strongest indicators that your path can deepen. Now, I would love to hear from you. Which of the 7 indicators spoke to you most clearly? Where do you feel you have genuinely changed in the past few years? Even if only a little. Where do you feel stuck in old pattern? Share your reflections and your stories in the comments. Your honesty may give courage to someone who feels alone in their struggles. If this long-form script gave you insight or encouragement, please support the channel. You can subscribe, click like, and leave a comment to help the algorithm show this content to more people who are quietly questioning their progress. And if you want to go a step further in supporting this kind of deep, story-based exploration of awakening, wisdom, karma, compassion, practice, and destiny, you can consider joining as a channel member. Thank you for walking this part of the path with me today. May your practice become more real, more grounded, and more gentle. May you move, step by step, from comforting illusions into authentic transformation, so that your destiny and the destinies around you can slowly turn toward more light.
Every person carries a certain energy. Your focus, your dreams, your purpose. Bracelet is a physical reminder of that energy. Symbol you wear daily, that pushes you to stay grounded, balanced, and aligned. If one of the bracelets caught your eye, you can order it through the link in the description. And check more powerful styles on our homepage store. Choose the one that strengthens your journey.